I want you to picture something. A husband and wife married 35 years, sitting across from each other at dinner. He's talking, he's smiling, nothing looks wrong, but she feels it anyway. A distance she can't name, can't point to, can't blame on any single thing he did. Here's what she doesn't know yet. It's not that he stopped loving her. That somewhere along the way the man she married outgrew the needs he had at 30 and developed new ones nobody ever taught him to name. Today I'm going to name them for you. A man at 60 carries a different emotional weight than he did at 40. His body has changed, his role at work, if he still has one, is shrinking or already gone. The people he used to call for advice are retiring, moving away, or passing on. He's facing the back half of his life, and most of what he needs from you now he was never given the language to ask for. These aren't fixes. These are the 5 things underneath everything else. Loved, but never truly seen. You can be married to a man for 30 years and still not know what keeps him up at night. That's not a failure of love. It's the difference between being loved and being known. Love says, I care about you. Being known says, I see who you actually are, and I'm staying. A man can spend decades being loved for the version of himself he presents, the capable one who has it together, while the real worry underneath never gets named. Daniel spent 2 years after retiring telling his wife every single morning that he was fine. He wasn't. He was terrified. He'd lost his purpose. What changed things wasn't her fixing it. It was the morning she stopped asking, "How are you?" and asked instead, "What's the thing you haven't told me yet?" That one swap from checking on him to actually reaching him is the whole difference between loving a man and knowing one. Being seen is the foundation, but there's a second need that sits right next to it, one most men will never bring up first. The war, he's never mentioned. Here's what most people don't realize about a man who can't admit a small failure at home. He'll eventually let a bigger one build up outside of it. The World Health Organization review of men's mental health found that men who believe they're supposed to be self-reliant and always in control often develop what researchers call self-stigma, guilt, and shame for struggling at all, not for anything they actually did wrong. Retirement tends to make this worse before it gets better. Geriatric psychiatrist Barbara Sparacino has described how many men built their entire sense of self-worth around their job. So when that job disappears, silence often takes its place. If the relationship becomes one more place he has to perform competently, he has nowhere left to just be human. I'm not talking about excusing real problems. I'm talking about separating what he did from who he is. Sometimes the sentence that opens the door is quiet. You don't have to have a plan today. You just have to be honest with me. Failing safely inside the relationship matters. So does something else. Something quieter still. The question of whether he's still wanted when he has nothing left to offer. The war he's never mentioned. The friend who just had a health scare at the funeral last month for someone his own age. He mentioned neither one at dinner. At 60, his private war doesn't look like it did at 30. It's not career pressure anymore. It's the quiet fear about his own body. Why doesn't he tell you? Not because he doesn't trust you. Because most men his generation were taught that fear is something you handle alone, in silence, without asking for help. He doesn't need you to solve it. He needs you to sit in it with him. There's a real difference between saying you should see a doctor about that and saying, I see you're scared and I'm right here. One feels like management, the other feels like company. Sitting with his fear is one thing. But there's a quieter need underneath it, one that has almost nothing to do with fear and everything to do with shame. Love for nothing he has to give. If I'm not useful anymore, would she still want me here? That question rarely gets asked out loud, but it sits quietly underneath a lot of men after 60. For decades, many measure their value by what they bring to the table: income, fixing things, having the answers. Some of that starts to fall away with age. You can't answer his question with words alone. What answers it is consistent. genuine interest in him when he has nothing to offer but himself, his opinions, his memories, his sense of humor, the parts of him that were never about usefulness in the first place. Wanting him for who he is, not what he gives, opens the door to the last need and the deepest one. Growing, not shrinking beside you. There are two ways to grow old next to someone. In one, a man keeps expanding, still becoming, still someone worth being. The other, he quietly shrinks, not because anyone is cruel, but because the relationship has become about managing him instead of growing alongside him. The belief that this relationship is making him more, not less, is the deepest need of all five. The greatest gift you can give a man at this stage isn't to complete him or to carry him. It's to be the place where he still gets to become someone, even now, even at 60, even with everything that's already happened in his life. 5 needs, one thread running through all of them. Let me leave you with what that thread actually is. Here's the thread. Every one of these needs comes down to the same quiet question a man rarely says out loud. If you saw everything underneath, would you still choose to stay? Answering it isn't about doing 5 things right. It's about how you show up again and again. If any of this sounded familiar, tell me which part in the comments I read, every single one.